Hi guys, so this is the part two one-on-one with Mike's Philippine journey. Please comment below. Let me know your thought on the collaboration. Thank you again for watching. Take care, stay safe, and God bless. Bye bye. I think maybe a lot of also foreigner cannot handle that. What do you think on your side, on your experience talking to foreigner? Can they handle that? Like, how do they say no to their Filipina partner or wife if they gonna say, "Hey, my father need help. My father got sick. My mother, something like that." Can they handle that? That kind of situation.
That's a good question. So the way I look at it is that it depends on the individual. I think men can do it. The problem with that is if you were a pushover when you were young, if you were a pushover, you see some of these guys. This is their third wet marriage. This is their second marriage, their
Yeah.
fourth marriage, right? So what you see, it's happened before. They were able to leave. They were pushed, because more than likely 70% of all, more than actually it's up to 80 now percent of marriages in the United States of America is actually initiated by a woman, right? So these guys, if they have always been a pushover, when they go to the Philippines, it's a different monster. It's a different setup.
Yeah.
So there's a higher chance that they're gonna get taken advantage of even more. But that's just how it's done. And so men needs to come into the Philippines, understanding the culture, understanding the possibilities. And so if they were being a pushover in the U.S. or whatever country they're from, right, they're not going to be able to handle the Philippines because the Philippines, number one, is it's not the West. It's things are done differently. And so, and with the other aspect in the mindset, I don't know why guys think this. They're going to be like, everything's cheap in the Philippines.
Yep.
And so they think, okay, this is cheap. This is cheap. And then also with the mentality, if she's poor and I give this to her, she's going to owe me and going to want to be with me and want to take care of me. That's a recipe for a disaster. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of guys like, talking about that one guy, there's going to be guys that's going to be able to handle that. And so that's where I'm coming from. Like, hey guys, let's talk about how to handle this situation. And this is where, and the worst thing ever is when a man does not have capabilities in communication. Like you have to communicate that with your woman. Listen, I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna take care of your mom and dad. But the tito, the tita, the brother, the sister, all that, we're not taking care of that. I'm gonna do what my job is to provide for you, your mom and dad. That's it. Anybody else, it's not. But some guys are so fearful that they're gonna lose this potential with this girl because she's cute, she's young, saying everything that he wants to hear.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to lose that opportunity, so he's gonna say yes, yes, yes. And once you say yes once, you open up the floodgates,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's then it's a problem. So I think that's where the thing kind
I
of goes
think
with that.
That's a very good advice, though. You just mentioned, and because as you were saying, foreigner think everything is cheap in the Philippines. So what is just if your Filipino want to ask for 1,000 peso, 1,000 here, 1,000 there, it's nothing, but it will add up
Yep.
eventually.
Yes, and I'm sorry, this is the thing is like because everybody hears, oh, you can live like this. Do you understand what type of food somebody eats at a $600 a month, a $500 a month? My thing is like I tell guys, have you eaten lugao before? Have you eaten lugao where all you have is the rice and the free and the sugar on it? Have you eaten lugao? Have you put Milo in rice in lugao with sugar? Like guys don't understand. I lived that life because that's
Oh
what
my
was being
goodness.
given. That's what was being given to me by these people that I'm helping. That I do medical work for when we're doing like medical missions. They'll give you the freaking thing in the back of their anything in the back, they'll give it to
Right,
you.
right.
But that's the thing you have to understand is that that's what they eat.
Yeah.
Can you eat a 555 sardinas
Yeah.
that's going to be split among 7 people in one can? Can you live that way? Can you live the fact that this is where guys don't
Wow.
understand. You can live with it, but do you know what the Filipino has to go through
Yeah.
in order to be able to do that? Are you willing to eat daing? Are you willing to eat bagoong? Are you willing to just have rice and
Yeah.
mango?
Yeah.
Like like it's like, can you live that way? And
Yeah.
guys don't understand it yet. And the thing though is that you come to the Philippines, understand that you do groceries at SM, you do
Mm-hmm.
groceries at Pure Gold, you do groceries. It's expensive now. It's impossible, right? There's people are living at 500 or less a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening with Filipinos, but you have to know what it takes. Are you going to walk the 5 miles to go to work? Are you going to take the jeepney where you're going to
Yeah.
transfer from one jeepney to another to another? It takes 4 hours just for you to be able to get a job to go to your work that you work 8 hours for, and then you have to leave and you have to go another 4 more hours just to travel back.
Yep.
Like, know the culture, know the understanding. But some guys are like, well, yeah, I can do that. I was like, yeah, no, I don't think you can.
I don't know. I don't know about how John lived with that 600. Because for me, I advise my viewer, if
Mm-hmm.
you are making it, let's say your social
Mm-hmm.
security is less than 1,000, you better
Mm-hmm.
stay home. Doesn't matter where is home, in state, in Australia, in UK. I think you better stay home. You better off staying home. Just
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, no. That's just my for me. Even for me, if let's say if I have to live on 1,000, for me who's from the Philippines, I will be very scared. That's just my honest opinion. So I would advise against if you making less than 1,000 on social security, I think you better just stay home. Having said that, I also understand that a lot of foreigners. I don't. Do you know that what's the average social security people are getting? Do you have any idea right now?
Last time I was told by a client, it was like around average is around 1,700.
So, 1,700. Okay, because I believe there are other people still getting like maybe I don't know if this is if my information is correct. I didn't do the Google search. I
Mm-hmm.
just heard it. Maybe I heard it many years ago. It was like maybe 800 or something like that. So 1,700. If that's the average, then that's good. I mean,
Yeah,
people can go to.
yeah.
But if
The
you
800 one is for the guys that did a lot of like side jobs and side gigs. Unfortunately, they weren't able to pay into
not
their social
paying the
security.
social
So,
security.
if you had a good, you worked, you were a union person, you did that, so you were paying your social security, then you're
Yeah.
gonna get those. But if you're one of those guys that went job to job and gig to gig, where under the table stuff, especially during the 70s and 80s, or even
Yeah.
in the 60s, well then yeah, you didn't add too much into your
Yeah.
social security,
Got
so
you.
you're gonna have to get those. Yeah, but it's funny you said 1,000. For me, it's 1,500. I say is like, listen,
No,
y-
you're right. 1,500. I upgraded to 1,500 because this is when I said 1,000. That was like maybe 2 years ago when I
mhm.
started the block, and then I know people were like thinking that like I'm a big shot. Like look down on other people. Other foreigner. So I try to try to convince myself maybe they can do it for like 1,000. I'm trying to then I said but and then I heard other blogger was saying 1,500. I said I like 1,500. I would be more comfortable with 1,500 because 1,000 is really not a safe
Mhm.
safe heaven for people, especially if you have health issue. So that's why
Mhm.
I really don't know. And then beside, for me, I was, said it. Why do you work all your life, and then you want to live on a 600 or 800, social security? You work all your life. You want to save money. You want to have a comfortable life, right? So that's my, my take.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely do understand that you can live, right? And so I say $1,500 would be comfortable living. Now,
Yeah,
if you have anything less than that, I always tell guys, I'm like, listen, can you live at $1,000 a month? Yes, because I can make sense. I've made those calculations. You're just not going to have certain things like internet. You're going to have to forego this.
yeah, yeah,
There's things that you have to forego that is normal stuff that as a Westerner that we want. You're not going to be able to eat out all the time. So it can be done with 1,000. But then you have to understand you're not living a comfortable life. You're living in a one bedroom studio apartment. That's, so it can be done, but it can be done until something happens.
Yeah.
When that first medical thing happens,
Yeah.
you're done. It's over. Finito. And because when that first medical thing hits, it's gonna be crap. I mean, a good example is like, Calvin had this friend who, I mean, he was a little bit of drunk, but he would go in a show. His name, and what happened with him is that he unfortunately died, and it sucks that he died, right? And and him and I he didn't like me, but it doesn't matter for that. Go into the fact that when Calvin was telling a story about, I guess he was in a hospital, but he needed to go to another hospital, and they were waiting for a bed. What that translates to me, because if you have the money, the bed will open up in that hospital. That's the Philippines, right? So the fact that there was no bed open at that other hospital that could do the stuff for him, there was a problem with money. Because if I had a problem and I go to Chongwa in Cebu, I go to St. Luke's and I go, here's $10,000, my emergency fund, take me in, I'm ready to go in. They'll take you in automatically.
Yeah, cash is king. In the
Cash is
Philippines.
king.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the fact that they didn't have a bed open for him at that one hospital, supposedly,
Yeah.
for a fact that there was a money issue.
Right. Yep.
And he passed away, I guess, a couple of days later. And that's the biggest problem. Where also many to understand, $1,000, you're gonna have to leave. You're gonna have to live in the provincial areas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Understand that that's not a good area to be in if you are in your 70s and 80s, because medical stuff is needed. You need to be among the big boys, Davao. You need to be among Chongwa in Cebu, St. Luke's. You need to be, you need to be with the big medical
A good
establishments
hospital.
are.
Yeah, you have to be nearby a good hospital. Point
Yeah.
has to, keep that a priority if you are, if you're 65 and over, you should be close to a hospital, a good hospital. Like again,
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar now with the Philippines because I don't know the good hospital. All I know is the Makati Medical Center. I
Makati
think.
Med, sure, it's
Yeah.
good too.
So
Yeah,
other
Makati
than
Med's
that-
good.
Other than that, I don't know. Especially in the province, I have no clue. But I'm just gonna go based on the other blogger was saying. What hospital. But yeah, you're right.
But yeah, but what's one good is like all the 1970s Filipinos are coming back to the Philippines now. So there's actually a push right now to have the agreement of certain facilities in the Philippines to start accepting Medicare and Medicaid.
Oh.
I'm sorry, not Medicaid, Medicare. Because the Filipino nurses that came to the Philippines during the 70s are retiring now. And so we're seeing an influx of Filipino families moving back to the Philippines, but
Yeah.
they can't use their Medicare unless they go to Guam. So it's getting to the point that there is a petition right now that's occurring. They actually had a meeting here in Tampa, Florida, among Filipinos here. So they're giving it out to a lot of the congressmen and all that stuff right now. They're saying, hey, we did our job. We came to the United States. We paid our taxes. We paid our Medicare. We paid all this stuff. But we want to retire in our country.
Right.
We want an opportunity. So that is a big push going on right now. So I would say it's going to be, I think I might get lucky enough that maybe 20 years from now that they'll have Medicare allowed in the Philippines, but it's not going to happen within the next 10 years, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So
but Guam is different though. Guam is.
I have no
different.
clue.
No, Guam is different than Philippines because Guam is part of United
America.
States,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
the Philippines is not, they're not, So I don't
Yes.
know if that will. I hope it happened, but I kind of doubt it though. It will approve. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the trick right there. Is like
Yeah.
it's just how is that going to be established, or is there going to be like you pay up front then you just get refunded? I don't know
I think
what
that
type
should
of
be the
situation.
case. You get refunded or something. I think that should be, they should push that one maybe.
Because just think about how much money Medicare can save if it's done in the Philippines for certain
Exactly,
procedures
right?
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're gonna save a lot of money by all these Filipinos or even American, even
Hey,
non-Filipino,
maybe you should start that. Maybe you should
So
start that.
I don't. One thing I don't do is government stuff. Like I don't, I don't want. I am not ruffling no feathers for anybody for the government. I mean, like I was in the Philippines during the what do you call this thing, during the whole Marcos problem
Oh,
that went
really?
on.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did cover that martial law. In the Philippines, you were in the Philippines during martial law.
it's 83. Yeah,
Eight. Oh, that was a later
right
part.
after.
Yeah.
Not in the heydays of the 70s
Yeah.
where all that stuff was going. No, I was so one of the biggest ones that I was like, pro Marcos groups I was part of, where I was close by, was in Escalante with the Escalante massacre.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. Okay.
I was
So you were there in during the people revolution, the people power.
yeah. Like I remember my father taking us to the embassy,
Uh huh.
and we went to the embassy to report in because that they was in the news. The embassy was like, okay, any Americans need to report in. So we had to report into the embassy so that and then we had to give them, because it was worse then. You have to give the address and stuff like that. So just in case
Yeah.
that they know if there's needs to be evacuation, that they know where to kind of find you. So you had to
Okay.
give the addresses. So there was all this time, all that stuff going on. And it was, it was crazy times. I mean, I still
Yeah.
remember, I remember that time. My dad's like, anything happens, we're gonna have to escape. We're gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to get you guys out of this country. It was interesting how all that stuff was transpiring around that
Yeah,
stuff.
I did.
But
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, yeah, it was an interesting time. Like because my dad treated my sister and I like we were adults. He always like sat us down and say, "This is a situation." How he would always give us like critical thinking questions, like how would you do this? How would you do that? And so we're like, "Oh, okay." Like so yeah, I like, for me wise, I'm not anti Marcos. I'm not pro Marcos.
Right. Right.
I'm for me wise, I may not, let's say for example, like in the U.S., I may not vote for that person, but if that person wins,
Yeah. You support it.
I'm pro-American, so I can just pray that he or she does a good
Yeah.
enough job
Yeah.
to transition the
Yeah.
country to the right direction and not go in a
I-
shitstorm type of stuff. So that's just me.
Like you, I felt the same thing, but maybe I'm not exactly like that. But what I'm trying to say doesn't matter who, but I will not criticize the president, because he's still my president. I will even he's doing not right. I will not like go to other country and then say, bashing the president. Because you're a U.S. citizen. So going back, I did make a video about during the martial law, because a lot of foreigners were concerned, say what's going to happen, and I would say nothing. It was actually it was a good time when martial law hit, because I remember I was a kid in Manila. It was a chaos time. During before the martial law, it was such a chaos. I mean, talking about the at that time it was the communists was spreading at that time, and then there's a lot of drug dealing in the Philippines. So I think it's a good time that I mean, when I post that, a lot of a viewer that lived through that say the same thing. It was actually it was a good time, and it was very peaceful. But of course, it's not for for the opposition, not for the opposition. They get rounded up. All the opposition get rounded up.
Yeah, I think that it depends on where your perspective was,
Yeah.
and then what side you were on in a way, or
Yeah.
what your socioeconomic level was. I know for a fact the people who were poor were really taken advantage of in the Philippines around that time. Let's just be honest. But the thing though is that I don't think has ever changed until now. Poor gets taken advantage of in the Philippines anywhere you go. It's
Nothing
just
changed. It's-
nothing has changed and stuff like that. I mean, so like I live, I had family members who were hacienderos and stuff like that, like real Basque Spain people living in the Philippines who owned haciendas and and all that stuff, and there was a lot of problems then. So like a lot of them are not in the Philippines anymore. They're back in Spain. So,
Yeah.
because of the rules that end up happening where they had to give up their land, like there was that rule
Oh
that
yeah.
you can
Oh
only,
yeah.
you can only learn certain things like this, and if you don't distribute it, we're gonna take it away from you. And I had relatives like, we're leaving the country, like, and then they just left the land and stuff like that and took their portion, and that was it.
Yeah, but the things the things I was referring to are the civilian. Civilian, we did not feel anything. I mean, for us it was good. It was more peaceful. But of
I get it.
course, like I said, if you at that time, and we all read it about the story that he when Marcos came to power, he started to control all the newspaper. He take away the even the power company. And he just
Meralco.
the Merarco, he just grab it and become he owned it. Everything is owned by the government at that time. So that's the ugly part.
Yeah.
But the good side was, it did bring peace to the Philippines, and I think it saved it from, going down. It could turn to be a communist at that time. If maybe if he did not step in, that's what I think. Based on
Yeah.
based on what.
Yeah. I definitely see what you're saying. I mean, there's one thing is like, do you trade communism for dictatorship? So it's like which one do you want, right? Because in a way you have to have a dictatorship type of rule to be able to put down your hands to get rid of communism in a way, because it's hard to take. It's like
Well, you know
it's
what?
one of those
Yeah.
political science type of stuff. It's like which one's which.
It's the same thing. I said the same thing though with China.
Mm-hmm.
China when we went when I'm not an expert on China, but I do know about the history of China, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say to people, I said, what, China turned to communist. I think is also a good thing. I mean, a lot of people will be shocked when they heard me say this, but if you study the what's happening in Chinese, in China, there's a lot of chaos at that time. It's always like a warlord. They're controlling, this warlord controlling these problems, and they constantly keep fighting. And finally, Chairman Mao, he start to start to rally the poor people, and then he came
Mao
to
Zedong.
power. So I think, once he came to power, everything stopped. No more warring. Warrior. Or at that time, it's a lot of corruption. Whoever in power, they got they just enrich themselves. So there's a good, and I think there's a good and bad. For me at that time,
Mm-hmm.
for them becoming a communist country, maybe it was good for the country. So
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I'm not pro communism. I despise the whole setup that it works. That setup, how it's set up. I really, because I'm a capitalist. I believe in, like, I want to create business. I want what I create mine.
Yeah,
I don't believe in redistribution of wealth. And so that's my thing. But here's the thing you have to look at. Obviously communism works for China, the fact that they're in a position of global power right now. Obviously communism works because, and what's funny is, like, Americans keep, we'll just say Western people say communism is bad, blah blah blah. I listen, I don't believe in it because of me being a capitalist person and I believe in making money. But the problem with that is, you cannot complain about communism if you're buying stuff at Walmart. Like you can't be against it and then all of a sudden be enjoying the fruits of communism.
but
Cheap labor,
Yep.
all those things, right? It's like, you can't complain.
But the thing is, with China, it's not big. What we are looking now is not the communists. It was a communist country, and then they were so poor. And then, I don't know if you remember Deng Xiaoping. Deng
Mm-hmm.
Xiaoping, who came to United States, I could not remember the year, and
Mm-hmm.
he see the progress, and then
Mm-hmm.
after he saw what's going on here in U.S. and when he went back, he decided to open China.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's still a communist country, but it's really also more lenient into like capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are seeing is not really a Chinese communist China anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are communist Chinese, China, you cannot be there cannot be like an Alibaba. There cannot be a Jack Ma who's a billionaire. How can you say that's a communist? You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's not really every communist China anymore. It's more open now. It's
Uh-huh.
because they see capitalism work, but it's just that some of this oldest mind they still doesn't want to really
It's
accept the
it.
concept. They just
it
still wanted their power. They just want to cling to their power. So
yeah, it's just there. I mean, I used to remember when Duterte came to when he won,
yeah,
and I was having a conversation with my father,
yeah,
and I was telling my dad, I was like, they're about to they're about to start martial law, Dad. And my dad looks at me and he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "They're gonna," because I do poli sci stuff, so
hmm
I love politics and stuff like that.
yeah,
And it's funny you're talking about Deng Xiaoping, because it also happened when what's his name from Russia came, Boris Yeltsin, when he visited the U.S.
hmm
and he went through a grocery store
hmm
and how everything was there, like everything that he wanted, he was like looking at it, and that's
hmm
what opened up also Russia. He was like, we need to open up Russia because of this, because look, everything's
yeah,
available.
hmm
So you had that with I was thinking Gorbachev at first, but no, it was Boris Yeltsin. Um,
yeah. I think
but
it's Gorbachev. Yeah, I think it was
it was
Gorbachev.
either because Boris Yeltsin was after Gorbachev, right?
Yeah,
Or I
yeah,
forgot which one. Yeah, okay. No, but going back to I was like telling my dad, I was like, they're about to have martial law in the Philippines, and I said, why? Just watch, because what's going on in Marawi right now. And my dad was like, with Duterte? I was like, yeah, just watch what happens. I was like, expect a bombing soon, and sure enough, it happened. And then they did martial law.
hmm
Um, they did martial law over there. And the worst part about it is that I was actually flying to the Philippines the week, um, the week after they announced martial law,
mm
and I was actually going to Iligan City,
hmm
which is like right next to Marawi, where the whole
yeah,
fighting was going. But I was going there because I was dating this girl. Like, she would come to the States, so, and then I'll come back to the Philippines and stuff like that, just go back and forth.
hmm
So she'll stay here for 3 months, and I'll go over there, stay there for 2-3 months and stuff like that. And it was like that situation, because
hmm
she was helping me build my virtual assistants in the Philippines.
hmm
And so I mean, I was in Iligan City. It wasn't, even though there was military everywhere, it didn't bother me at all. I mean, it's like sometimes you have to show power to get to create peace. So,
yeah,
like, in a way, if you, and one of the things is there's that one, I forgot who said it, where the worst export the United States has ever given
hmm
is democracy, because unfortunately democracy does not work with everybody else. So you have to come up with a certain when they create, when they try to turn a country into a democracy,
uh-huh.
what ends up happening is they still have to fine tune it based on the tradition of the government that they previously had. So in a way, they still have to fix certain things and keep certain things. I mean,
Yeah,
just like look at,
it's hard to it's really hard to like they say
yeah.
when you give people a hand they want your arm.
Hmm.
It's just the same thing with country. But
Yeah.
I do enjoy the democracy when I migrate here to U.S. That's why
Hmm.
I said I came here. I was like breathe of fresh air. Because I love just like you. I love politics. I don't want to talk much about politics, but I do follow the politics,
Hmm.
both
Yeah.
Philippine and U.S. And yeah, so I felt that, especially when somebody lived in true martial law, I compliment martial law was peaceful, but at the same time, you are not allowed to say anything
Yeah.
about the government. You cannot say. And then when I came here, oh, it's like fresh air,
I can
freedom.
say I can say anything.
I can say, if I'm not happy with, the president, I can say it with no problem without getting fear or getting arrested.
And I think you're having something really good here at this moment. I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who says so much how martial law is so bad are the women, are the people,
Mm-hmm.
men or women, that left the Philippines, that it got to experience a different type of stuff. But if you're in the Philippines during the whole time,
Yeah.
you're just happy. You're just like, this is cool. I don't have to worry about.
Oh, it was
you-
cool. Seriously, it was cool because,
Yeah.
like I told you, I live in Manila, so you see everything there, and
Mhm.
this just like even just for the presidential election, it was so scary. But of course,
Mhm.
I was so young,
Young.
and I watching the rally passing by our house, and
Mm.
people shouting like voting for this person. I was like fear. I was like covering, watching that the whole event, and then when Marcos declared the martial law,
Uh-huh.
everything stopped, and everything
Yep.
for me, it was so peaceful now, and you don't see anymore like robbery disappear. Everybody was so scared, and you don't see anymore like pickpocket. It's all gone. All the criminal, it's all gone. It was
Mhm.
just it was it was a right time at that time. So I just wanna I share that on my channel
Yeah.
to let the foreigners not to be afraid, because some people say, oh, is this going to turn to another martial law because Bongbong is now the president and I think Bongbong is more modern, unlike but did you went through the father, right? He
Yeah.
was
Let's see.
really
That was
tough. He was really tough. I mean, he
People Power. People Power was 1986 when it occurred, right? So,
yeah.
yeah. So, 1986 was People Power.
But for you though, do you feel that the father was the most feared president in the Philippines for your experience?
I can't comment on that one. Let's just say that I'm not going to say it that way, but what I'm going to say is that I think that he was feared and he was loved, right? So I think that that's a fair way to say it and stuff like that. And even if you look back at the history, I mean, the guy was a rebel. He was a rebel. He was against the Japanese, fighting against the Japanese when he earned his stripes. Now, I for me wise, I think that there's still a fine line, that I think that people have the right to vote, and unfortunately that wasn't taken down. But we all have to understand the way politics works in the Philippines. It's not just, we have to understand that it's I forgot what the term is, where it's among families. It's family and family. It's gonna get passed along to passed along.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
how it is. And where a lot of foreigners need to understand with the history of the Philippines, the barangays is just pretty much a transition to how it used to be, where a clan lived here, a clan lived there. You facilitated and governed your own particular areas, and it's continued to be that way.
Yep.
But there are parts of stuff like that in certain areas where it's just family and family. The Dutertes, you had the Aquinos, you had so I mean the Arroyos, then you had the Macapagals. I mean, like, look at Macapagal Arroyo, right? That's two big families that's joined together to create one big thing. The Macapagals are presidents, right? Macapagal, it's like, and so foreigners need to understand how it works, and the fact that this thing happens with Bongbong coming in. My thing is this: the sins of the father is not the sins of the son.
Yep.
So it's like you have to give him an opportunity
Uh-huh.
to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
That's now if he does something wrong, there's so many other things that's not going to make somebody go. But when I've heard guys say, I'm not going to come to the Philippines anymore because of this whole thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Number one is, have you ever been in a martial law and experienced what a martial law is?
Uh-huh.
Number two is, if that's going to be the decision to make you not want to come to the Philippines, that means there's 5, 6, 7 other reasons why you won't come to the Philippines. You're just using this as an excuse. And so, and just like when I talk about all the different laws in the Philippines as well, like, I just cover it. I say how this is a good law, and this is how it can be abused, because that's how laws are. It can be used for the right, or laws are normally created to help, but it also can be used to be abused. So it's like, so I'm like, okay, like there's that I did a video about that went crazy. It had over like 70,000 views. It was called the Bawal Bastos law. And so, I was just saying, like, listen, this could potentially be used against you, but understand that the law was made for Filipinos, not for foreigners. It's made for men. Bawal Bastos law means that, you can't catcall Filipinas. You can't do this. I believe in that. You're not supposed to be bastos to Filipinas. You're not supposed to be bastos to
I didn't know
anybody.
there's a law.
It's called it was approved in 2019, but remember 2019 we had COVID, so this law hasn't been enforced for 2 years until now, where they're starting to re-educate people. But the problem that exists there is, in that particular law, and if you go to the government website, one of the example that was considered bastos is a guy saying hello.
That's ridiculous, right?
So that's the thing. So the question is, if the woman feels that you're creepy and you say hi to her, and she feels that that you're bastosing her by just saying hello, well, then she can put a claim against you, whether you're a man, Filipino or foreigner. And my reasoning is, most of the time is for women, you're creepy if you're not good looking.
Yeah.
Right? Because if a good looking guy says hello to her, she'd be like, oh my god, may gusto sa akin, pogi nito. And then if an ugly guy is, oh, nako, creep. They're like that, right? So it's like, but the thing is understanding that the law exists, so you can put yourself in a position to navigate yourself to be a better person. But then you had some guys like, I'm never going to the Philippines no more. This is why I'm going to Thailand. And I'm like, have you seen the laws in Thailand? And then the guy's like, well, no, what's the law? I've seen it. You obviously don't know it. You didn't know about this law till I talked about it. So which one do you want? The devil that you know, or the devil that you don't know?
Right.
And so that's the purpose of knowing the laws that exist, is to properly put yourself in a position. Now, if you were like a full-blown communist trying to be a communist in the Philippines during martial law, just understand that they're going to shave your head, electrocute you in the corner, and beat you up, and nobody's going to see you ever again. But that's your choice. It's the same thing. It's the same thing in regards for some of the more smaller laws. But I experienced how it was, the martial law that occurred in the Cagayan de Oro area, because I was there at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind. So
You feel safer, right? You feel safer with the.
Heck, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, we went. We arrived in Cagayan de Oro. We took a bus from Cagayan de Oro into towards Iligan. And what happens is, there's a checkpoint. Everyone has to get off the bus, get checked, cross the line, and then the bus gets checked, and then they cross the bus, and then you go back in the bus you move forward.
Did you film it by any chance? Did you video?
No, I wasn't I wasn't a vlogger at that time. But actually, they actually did not allow you vlogging.
I'm sure they will not allow it.
Yeah, they didn't allow vlogging when you're in that particular area of things.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, so number one is like, I respect it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, a good example is like, I remember in 2003, I went to go to Cebu.
Yeah.
And my, what do you call this thing? My uncle, was also in the Philippines at that time. And he goes, yeah, come see me and stuff like that. Cause he's married to a Filipina. And, well, he's also part Filipino too, but he's like me, 1/8, 1/4, 1/3, like really small amounts, And he was like, yeah, so, but he lives in, France now. But he's like, yeah, come over and stuff like that. The whole time that we were there, we had 2 security guards with guns.
Oh yeah.
And so wherever we went, like, I'm like looking, I was like telling my uncle, I was like, Uncle, that guy keeps on showing up everywhere we go. Like that, he keeps on showing up everywhere we go. I saw him when we were in, because I was staying at the Marriott Hotel in Ayala Center, which is now Radisson Blue, but back then it was a Marriott.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, are we gonna get, and my uncle's like, no, that's a bodyguard. I was like, and like he never told me. Turns out to be these guys have been following us for like the whole day, and I thought I was one of those guys that was paranoid that I saw everybody, the same person showing up. But no, he was like, yeah, that's our bodyguard. And the thing though is sometimes you need that certain things. I mean, like I told the story about this where we were, where guys came to my house with guns and tied us up. This was 1987, right after
Wow.
this stuff. You know,
Why tying you up is robbery?
Yeah, 1987. No, not 1987. 1987. I was in 4th grade at that time.
Wow.
Guys came in the house, tied us up. I was the only one that looked kano, so then of course they knew I was the son of my father. So everyone was tied up in the middle with my dad, and then I was next to the guy with a gun in my head. And they're asking for where the money, the jewelry was, and stuff like that. And I remember they were asking me, they're like, "Where's the gun?" And if you're a fourth grader and you're scared, right, and you're gonna be like, "The gun is over there," and I knew where the guns were, like I knew where the guns were, but because my dad trained me on critical thinking and how to be smart with street smarts and stuff like that, I still remember that day. He goes, "Where's the gun?" And I just looked at him without looking at my dad. I was like, "We don't have any guns. What are you talking about?"
Wow.
Right, I remember that time.
That's heavy. I mean,
Yeah, it was. I've told that story, and yes. Ask a question. Go ahead.
and then what happened? Did they leave you alone after that? They take the whatever they they
No.
can take.
They were gonna kill us. So, 4 of them with masks with guns. 1 guy no mask with a knife. So the fact that you see his face, he's the one that's gonna kill you. Like I knew already what's going on. I was like, I already had my assess in my head. My dad didn't even need to tell me.
And
When I
you
told
were
my dad the
4 years-
story,
well, you were 4th grader, right?
I was fourth grader. Yeah.
Yeah.
So gun in my head, all that stuff, and and my dad literally, he was tied up. Also, my dad broke loose, right? But they caught my dad. Like they were able to stop my dad, and so the one guy like hit my dad in the head with the gun, with the butt of the gun, and I remember his head blood just burst in the air. Like blood just flew, and I thought they shot him, but blood burst in the air, and then they tied him up again. And I just remember I ran to him, and the guy didn't stop me. The guy with the gun in my head. I ran to my father, and I put my hand in his head, and I could feel the blood gush, the warmth of the blood just like coming off. And I was just like, I had my hand on the head and stuff like that, and they tied him up and stuff like that. I'm crying. My sister's yelling. My neighbors were like, whatever. The maids were all also.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was, the guy grabbed me, put me in the corner again, and then right when he had his putting me in the corner, my dad broke loose the second time. So by the time my dad broke loose the second time, I hear my dad yelling in Tagalog, "Papatayin kita." They were like, that's how my dad yelled.
Your dad is like a Houdini, huh? He's escape.
My dad was my dad. Let's just say my dad was not with a person that would like the martial law around that time.
Okay.
Because my dad had guns, so we were not allowed to have martial law. Yeah. But okay, let me go ahead and preface this, because some guys go, "You're foreigners. How can you have a gun in the Philippines?" We didn't own the guns. It was owned by the security that we actually employ. That they leave the guns in the house. So I'm sorry, guys. Technicality of the law. It's owned by the security guards because we had security in the house only during the daytime, not at nighttime. The security at nighttime, was posted outside, and it was their day off. It was like, and I asked my dad one time, I was like, did the guy set us up? And my dad's like, no, I actually literally told him a month before that he can have a weekend off. So it cannot, but then maybe whatever. So we don't know fully. But yeah, so my dad broke loose the second time. My dad jumped up on the count and those are 15 steps. So he jumps up 15 steps. Then he grabbed his first gun that I know. It was a 38 Paltek, and his sumpak. grabbed that. Then he started popping off some rounds. The guy who had me got scared, ran out the first door, and luckily enough, that door is meant to lock. So the door locked,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you could hear him try to get in. And
Right.
by then, because that door locked, they were only in the perimeter. They couldn't go back in the main house
Right,
where
right,
we
right.
all were. So we all got up and hid by the bar, and we had this marble bar. So we all hid there, and you just start hearing guns
Wow.
popping left and right. Like, so there's gunshots, and I still remember. I'm like, that's a 38. That's a 38. I still remember my dad yelling because he had the paltek, which the bullet was homemade bullets, so it expanded, so it got stuck on the revolver thing. So he's yelling, and I was like, and I know that yell because like I've shot that gun at fourth grade. I was shooting guns when I was in fourth grade, so my dad prepared me for that stuff.
But those Baltic are more dangerous than a real, real
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah, guys don't. This is the thing. Like, I still laugh where a lot of I still get this one where a lot of guys come to my channel like, oh, he has no clue about the Philippines. Guys, yeah, please. I was like, I know a lot. And then I get criticized like, oh, you don't live in the Philippines right now, so how could you talk about just because I don't live in the Philippines doesn't mean I don't know the Philippines. I know it.
Yeah.
I know it good. So yeah, so we had the
Well,
paltek, and then
let me tell you, when you
Yeah.
say Milo with rice, then I know you live in the Philippines.
dude, man, Milo and rice, and then you just put enough sugar. Like, I remember when I first had that when I was young, because I went the school I went to, we did exchange. We go to the
Yeah.
we've always done that. I've always been around medical missions when I'm older, but when I was younger, you go with the nuns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that stuff when they gave you the lugaw, the Milo, and the sugar.
Yeah.
And I ate it for the first time.
Uh-huh.
That's like that. That's the cheap champurrado, right?
Yep.
That's the cheap champurrado.
Yep.
Like, and I was like, and I loved it so much that that's all I would ask our maids to cook was
Yeah.
like, can you make that? And like, I remember a neighbor coming by, seeing me eating that kind of stuff with the maids.
Yeah.
And the neighbor got offended and was upset because I offered it to her, and she was just like, I would never eat that. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is some good stuff. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I just made tokpat baboy today.
Yeah.
I made tokpat baboy and arroz caldo right now, but so
Yeah.
but that's the thing. It's like, it was crazy. I mean, and guys don't understand, like, it was dangerous in the 80s.
It was
Even during
that
martial
was
law.
horrible. I don't know. I never experienced that kind of then encounter. I never experience. I just have when you said I just going through my mind is like they got to be inside job right there. Maybe it's
Yeah.
one of the security guys. Tip of this is also this is. It always happening in the Philippines is that it's an inside job.
Yeah, and the thing is where people say, it was like, well, see, that's how it is. And I was like, you don't understand. Because of the fact that it happened, you have to understand also that it was safer. It was going to be worse if we didn't have martial law around that time. Because martial law put, in a way, fear among men who were trying to do bad things.
Yep. That is so true. That's what I experienced. That's why I try. When I see that a lot of channel and the viewer were commenting, we don't know about this Bongbong Marcos. There were fear. It might go to like a martial law again because of what happened. I said no. Actually, it was very peaceful. As long as you're a civilian,
And you're being civil, and you're
Yeah.
being a good person and not trying to create chaos. Yeah.
If you're a foreigner, you go there, you just have fun, being a tourist, or see your Filipina, you'll be fine,
Yeah, and that's the thing where foreigners need to stay away from politics, stay away from things that can be viewed as politics,
Yeah.
and also don't do the things that people may not like you from doing. Because the thing though is, like, if you start getting into the whole donation stuff, people like the inget stuff starts happening. You come to the Philippines, enjoy yourself, stay below the radar, and you're gonna be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
you get dollars, so you're gonna be able to put. But what's funny is like, and then this is the thing where foreigners coming to the Philippines with not enough money, and they end up living in the bad areas, and then they wonder why they get taken advantage of, because if you're in a bad area, those people might think you have money, and
Exactly.
so why are you allowing opportunistic people to take advantage of you? Like just like for example, when those guys came into our house,
Yeah.
right? They for some reason thought that they can be opportunistic to us, but still they underestimated it.
Yeah.
And so, but this is why I don't mind martial law, is because the moment that guns were popping off, the whole PC squad came to our house automatically to like see what's going on. You won't have that back in the days, because there's the cops back in the days didn't exist. But if it wasn't for martial law, you wouldn't have the Philippine army around the corner knowing something's going on in your area.
Yeah.
Right? We wouldn't have that.
Yep.
So I still remember like those guys got away. One guy got shot, but they all got away, all five of them. But I'll tell you one thing though. For some, because I recognized one of them with the mask.
Yeah.
He had a big what do you call this thing? Birthmark in his face. Balat. I remember it's called balat, right?
Yeah.
So he had a big balat in his face, and I mentioned it. So my dad's like, "Do you remember anything?" I was like, "He had this big balat in the face." And around that time, if you had a balat in your face, even now, all they have to do is ask all the bad boys around the area
Yep.
who's the one that has a balat. So obviously
yeah.
they found him really fast,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
unfortunately they gave him martial law justice.
Wow.
That we can just speak it that way. They looked at me, they asked my dad. My dad said, "Son, what do you want to do with this guy?" And I told him, I don't think he should be able to do what he did ever again.
Yep.
I don't. Now me saying that,
Yep.
unfortunately, I feel, I'm not saying, I'm allegedly, we'll just say that I don't think he exists in life after like a few days after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably.
But
Yeah. They're probably just toss it somewhere.
But that's once again, I know for a fact that there's going to be opportunistic people if you put yourself in a position where people will take advantage of you. But at the very same time, is I felt safe around that time. I never had any. The only time I felt unsafe in the Philippines, and I don't even like that one incident. I don't. That's. I think that I've put that far in the end to say that that's not even
Why?
dangerous for me, because my father was around. My dad was my protector. But the only time I felt that there was a problem in the Philippines around that time was during the People's Revolution, when I was like, "What's this chaos going on? I've never seen this in the news before." That's when I was like, "What's going on in the Philippines?" And I still remember my dad was like, "We might be leaving soon." And I was like,
What surprised me though, I mean, you like seems like you have. I mean, I don't know. I cannot. If that happened to me, I don't think I can get over that. Especially you were young. You were, maybe what, 12 years old, 11 years old, right?
yeah, around 12,
So
yeah,
that is
10, around 11 or 12, yeah.
yeah, that was a very scary experience. You have witnessed like that. I mean, I never witnessed like that. I have experienced a lot of time pickpocket in the Philippines, but not like a gun stick to my face or in my head like that. That's a different ball game. That's a different situation. But
Yeah, I think that it made me a better person. It's like, because like now, that was like the eye opening in life for me, and that was a moment where like for me wise, it was like you need to value life and treasure every moment that you have. So it was more of like that kind of a situation for me. So it was like but so it was like I think that for me wise, it didn't affect me as much because my father.
yeah, you have your
Like,
father there, and you kind of look up to your father there. He's
yeah,
like, yeah,
like I couldn't really fully say I was unsafe, because at any given moment, here's a man who jumps, who got away, got hit in the head burst, and you think a guy's gonna quit by then. He breaks loose again and he jumps up step, and then so it's like it was more of like that situation for me and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, but yeah, it's I think that can make or break a person. But my father just sat down and with us and says, Okay, like I said earlier, like critical thinking skills. And I still remember. That's why I know the part where malunggay helps any wounds, because my neighbor's maid came in chewing malunggay leaves,
Yeah,
and she
and
put it on my dad's head,
yeah.
and it just clotted, and then he didn't even need stitches. Like she just put the malunggay stuff in there and just
Wow.
kept it there, and we had a bandage on him, and he was good the next day,
Wow,
and
amazing.
so.
That's
Ma-
amazing.
yeah, malunggay, man. So I was like, okay, that stuff works. So even till now, I was like, malunggay, malunggay. But I think that's the thing is that he sat us down and says, what do you think happened? Like he made us. He didn't try to hide it from us. He literally says, what happened? Let's assess it as a family so this doesn't happen again. But then what ended up happening was he took us away from that house, and we ended up moving to we moved to San Pedro Laguna.
Where was this? Were you able to share when that thing happened when in your house? Where is that, in Manila, or where is it?
Cavite.
Oh, in Cavite. Oh, wow, Cavite. Wow.
But but not the bad area Cavite. We're talking about Carmona Cavite, right next to Laguna. So it's not even bad area. It was actually a decent area.
Oh.
And so so yeah, so it's just like you're just like my dad's like, let's get out of here. We'll go to San Pedro. So we end up moving to San Pedro by Pasita Complex and stuff like that. And so so that was a little bit different because you go from a compound to all of a sudden like these just metal gates and just different type of a living and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and then that's when we then and then
But
like
I still
yeah, it's
think
crazy.
I still think it's an inside job, though.
Yeah, my dad fired the whole security group
Yep.
after that. He fired the security group, got a new security group. But the new security was the PCs. What he literally did was, see that patch of area in the front over there?
Yep.
You guys get to hang out over there. You'll be fed every day. So that's where they end up having the checkpoint eventually. So they put a checkpoint there. My dad just fed him every day. My dad would give him, alcohol on the weekends and stuff like that. And I still remember,
That's the thing with Filipino. Alcohol is also number one. I share this on my channel.
yeah.
They work Monday to Saturday, right? And then on Saturday, they go party. They go get drunk. That's the thing, especially in the province. That's
Yeah.
one of the big things is they love to drink, beer.
Yeah, you don't know how to party until you can drink San Miguel beer with ice. That's all I can say. Like you don't understand how to party like a Filipino until you drink San Miguel beer with ice. And not talking about the ice cubes. I'm talking about you buy the one thing of ice
Yeah.
and then you chop it up.
Yep.
That's Filipino partying. Like I tell every foreigner, I was like, listen, you want to party with the Filipinos and make sure that they bring the warm beer,
Yeah.
the chopped ice, then you bring the kilawin and and then the chicharon.
Yep.
And that's all you need. And then if you want to take it to the next level, 7-Up and tanduay, and it's all good. And you can have the most amazing time. And that's what's amazing is like seeing that type of Filipino like life and enjoyment is where I wish a lot of foreigners put themselves into, because then you can respect the real Filipinos, right? The true Filipinos, and not what this basic thing that's put up there. It's like when it's like that I make it my and it's funny. It's like when I come, whenever time I'm in the Philippines, my classmates still live in the Philippines. Like I have classmates who live in the Philippines, but now they speak Tagalog, and so because they actually do speak Tagalog because they're Filipino, but in school they only spoke English because you would get hit by the nuns if you spoke Tagalog. Like this is how bad it was. They spanked you if you spoke Tagalog at all,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so like I still see them every now and then, and so it's amazing when you really among good Filipinos, and that's where I that's why I'm a proponent of it, because I've experienced the amazing Filipinos.
I think you'll be good. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Sharing this to the foreigners. I think that's a really good. And
Yeah.
then what's
Crazy stuff.
I want to say something and then I forgot. I
No,
have
no,
this.
no.
I have this. Sometime I will making a video and then I lost it,
Uh,
and then
oh,
and then
me, me, me too, man. Me, don't worry. It's not just you, man. It's me too, man. It's a,
I would stop and then say, you know what? I have to go back to what I said. I couldn't remember, and then pick me up. I have to pick me up myself up. It's just getting old. That's it. But
don't say that, Jimbo. Don't say that, man. We're not
yeah,
old yet, man.
yeah. But you have a very good experience, and then you have very good knowledge about the Philippines, and that's what we try to share it with the foreigners. And the thing is. The one you were seeing on the news, maybe on Rapid Tulpo, it's just a small fraction. It's just a very small fraction, and then it got blown out, and then people, thinking, oh, all the Filipina are scammer, a lot of scammer. No, there are a lot of good Filipina. The same thing with Filipino, but it's not got been talking about. It's just the bad one. It's in the news. So don't.
Yeah, and unfortunately for me, wise, it's like I get it. I do talk about the bad stuff. I do talk about the scamming stuff. But and I do talk about more than
No, it's
than
okay.
others.
It's good
But
that you were sharing, to warn people. It's good.
yeah, and that's my goal. Is like, listen, these are the things that can happen to you.
Yeah.
Now that you know what the worst that you can happen to
Yep.
you, and
Yep.
you know how to prevent it.
Yeah.
Now is the part where you find how to have fun,
Yeah.
because most people want to hide the bad stuff. I want to expose it so you're ready for it, and then you can have a lot of fun. I mean, like, I don't even get mad at men, like, the whole pay to play, the whole, like, how back in the days with your clients, you have to take them to the masseuse. We know what the masseuses are about.
Yeah.
You go take them to the bar. I get it. If guys come to the Philippines for that, I have no problem with them doing that. Once again, it goes to the part of, as long as the woman agrees to what the situation is, where she's at, and you treat them fairly, because you treat them fairly, you do the transaction what you need, that is between both of you, just like how you said about Duterte
Yeah.
and telling the cops, because number one is it's legal. Now I know they say it's illegal, but they found ways to make it legal by calling it bar fines, by calling it this. It's the country made it, even though there's no foreigners around. The Filipinos will do it among Filipinos.
Yep.
We know that exists.
Yep.
So we have to understand that exists, and it's okay to enjoy that, but do it where number one is, don't make other foreigners look bad. Number two, be respectful still, no matter what, even though that's the job that these women have. I'm sorry to say, but don't wife them, because that's going to be a problem for you. And then once again, just do it legally. Don't go to the illegal backdoor cheap places, and the reason why it's cheap over there is because the women are forced into that type of a situation. But I mean, the Philippines is an amazing country.
It is. I mean, you're talking about how many island, so and we all know that waterfront is the most expensive piece of real estate. So I just I said this to my friends and family in the Philippines. When I went back, I said, of course I was having a reunion. I said, wow, I see progress here. I said, it's only a matter of finding a good leader who is honest. I mean, Duterte is good, but he just one man cannot control the whole country. For me, that's my my assessment of Duterte. But if you got a good leader, an honest leader, I mean, you will see. Oh my goodness, the Philippines will be like Singapore. I can see that. I can picture that. It can be. It will just boom. You just need to have a good leader. Without those corruption. I mean, it's
Yeah, I think Duterte was the cleanup guy. I think he was the guy that came in, let's clean up, and then whoever comes after him is going to benefit from what he did to expand it. And the Philippines, there's only one thing that the Philippines needs for it to boom, for business or anything like that. Number one, it needs to create the infrastructure for good internet service.
Yep.
Until then, nothing's going to happen for business, because that's the only thing that prevents a lot of larger companies to come to the Philippines. But then now with Elon Musk's whole thing that they're going to open it up soon, that might force the other PLDTs, Globes, and Smarts to do something
Duterte
better.
trying to do that. He's trying to get another company come in with the with
Yeah,
the,
yeah, but PLDT pushed back. But then
Yeah.
the thing though is with Elon Musk's thing being satellites,
Satellites,
you
so
don't
with the
need
solar-
you don't need
Yep.
yeah you don't need infrastructure no more to have internet. You don't need the cables and all that stuff. A lot of them are trying to actually prevent it from happening. They're like, no, they should not, but they can't do anything because this is technically. I can buy the solar
Yeah.
I mean the satellite thing from the U.S. have it shipped to the Philippines and use it, and so yeah, so I think that's gonna once that becomes thing in the Philippines, even though PLDT, Globe, and Smart doesn't do anything about it.
monopoly, right? Those
Yeah, it is. It isn't. I mean, technically it's not a monopoly because there's 2-3 different companies, but we know it is still.
Yeah.
And so I think that, but yeah, I think Philippines, but then at the same time is foreigners need to understand also that things are going to get expensive because once it starts moving up, things are going to, and we're seeing it get expensive. I mean, we are seeing it happen. So there's some guys out there, unfortunately, thinking that they're going to retire 15 years from now and only pay $100-$200 for a location.
Yeah.
They need to understand that they need to step up their game on what they have as income or what they have in savings, because what somebody would pay $200 now, 10 years from now is going to be $300-$400, and if they miscalculate the way they decide to save up or manage their money.
There,
You know?
there are certain things are more expensive over there because I remember when I went back 3 years ago,
Okay.
I could not buy anything. I mean, if I go to the mall, I was looking at the prices. I said I can get it cheaper in state than I'm talking about the name brand. Like
Yeah.
Adidas and Nike. If you want to get those, you get it. You probably get a better deal in state when it go on sales than to buy in the Philippines. So there are certain things
Yep.
more expensive in the Philippines. So
I
Yeah.
agree.
so anyway, hey, very really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, I did too, man. I'm glad, and I think that was amazing, like how we can transition to like what really the Philippines is about. But talk about like where we agree and don't agree. But it's like that's the thing I think what men need to do more is you don't have to agree with somebody, but you have to respect that they're gonna say what they have to say. So it's like
I always
I had
like,
fun, man.
I always welcome my anybody even the
Yeah.
troll. I leave the comment. Sometimes they're attacking me. I leave it on, as long it's not like below the belt.
Sure.
Yeah, and anytime you want to invite me again, I'd be happy to come. To
Yeah.
to your show. Or maybe we can do a live together one day. So
Yeah,
Just
I say
let-
we do. Let's do it in your channel if you want to do it. We'll do it live in your channel because So if that's something you want, then I'll just have people come over to your channel and stuff like that. I think that'll be a
let's
fair
see.
thing to do.
I don't really do live.
Okay, then
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see what happens.
sure. Then if that's the case, we can do a live in mine one of these days and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
no, Jimbo, thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you,
for
Michael.
showing them up. I really appreciate. I actually enjoyed this. This was. This is a fun this is a fun conversation, man. But so have a good night, get some rest. Thank you so
too.
much.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll do a live when I'm in the Philippines because I'm leaving on the
Oh.
7th
Okay.
on July.
Sounds good.
So
Okay.
all right, man. Take care, man.
Take
Have a
care.
good one. Okay.
You too.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.